G'day and welcome to the 1957 Plymouth steering wheel restoration. I did one in 2012-ish, I think, on a Wolseley. Very, very straightforward job. Just cleaning out some cracks, filling them up and painting the wheel and that sort of stuff. With the steering wheel restos that I've seen, there are a few kicking around on YouTube. Some of them use auto filler, which is a no-no. I've done that, and I did it on the Galaxy's wheel, I think. And the expansion and contraction rate of the fill that you're using, because that's made to pretty much go on metal. When you stick it on a plastic wheel, it moves around at a different rate, and of course all your paint starts grazing. I've noticed that on a few. Some people use that knead it stuff that you buy. It's like a plasticine with a hardener, and you knead it and you're filling up with that. The material I've used is araldite, 24-hour curing stuff, and it just means the whole job takes ages. This thing's been going on for about 6 weeks. Or longer, probably 2 months. Now, I'm starting the video with a few of the differences between the 57s and also just how the cars were when they were first produced or sold. And that's what I learned on my trip to Canada. Now, if you have a 60s to 90s Falcon, I can tell you a bit about it. A 70s one, I can tell you quite a lot about it, because I've had a few of them and I've pulled them apart and I've worked them and all this sort of other stuff. These two cars here I've had literally as bare shells and started from the ground up. So I have a bit of knowledge of that sort of thing, but when it comes to the Plymouth, I don't. Now, car companies do funny things. I know Ford did. They had parts carrying over from one model to the first run of the next model and that sort of thing. One of those might be, hang on, XD Falcon. Mine has the chrome window winders that you'd find in an XA, XB, XC, XY. The same as XW actually, but the XDs I've seen all seem to have black ones. Maybe that's a carryover from the XC as an example, I don't know. But there's all sorts of stuff like that. And colours, like blue steel in the first of the XCs, disappeared in the later ones and became platinum blue or something. I have a friend, Neil McClyman, you probably heard me talking about him. He is an encyclopedia with stuff like that. He can tell you dates, he can tell you paint codes, he can tell you what transferred from one model to the next. He can tell you an awful lot of stuff that I couldn't. So, where it comes to the Plymouth, I can't tell you much really, and I know my friend in Canada, Scott, he can. He really does know these things very, very well. And so, while I was there, I asked him a lot of questions, and he offered a lot of information that I sort of soaked up when I was there. So, just to learn a bit about these cars, because I really don't know too much. But now I feel I kind of do, and there are subtle differences between 57s and 58s, and my car is a 57, but it has got some 58 badging on it and that sort of stuff, or emblems on the front and the back. The rest of it's all original though, in terms of the parts relevant to that year. The steering wheels are something I'm quite confused about though, because I have seen a lot of them with that. You'll see it in the first couple of frames of this video, where I start talking about the black one that I was sort of having a closer look at, that standard wheel with the sort of hump. Oh, how do you explain it? The Savoy and Plaza wheel. I thought those wheels were standard across all of them. The deluxe wheel was optional, but maybe that's only on Belvedere's. Don't know. Someone can probably tell me that. I really don't know. So we'll start having a look at some of those differences and where my car's been altered. My car came off the ship in 2006 from, I assume, Los Angeles to Adelaide, and it lived in Adelaide until I bought it a couple of years ago. And really, I never got to see it, or I've never seen photographs. If the guy who owned it ever sees this, I'd love you to forward me photos of what it looked like when you got it and that sort of stuff. The guy that had it before me was a panel beater, and he sort of semi-restored it to the point you see it now, which is beautiful. There are some other bits of work I need to do in the meantime to get it to the stage where I can put glass and that sort of stuff in. But you know, some of the repairs I've seen are really top notch. You know, really, really good stuff. So we'll start with a couple of photos from of the bits and pieces relevant to this, and then we'll get into the wheel restoration. So I hope you're enjoying. We've been looking at the differences between my Belvedere and an originally painted car, which is what this is. Silver on the pan underneath, and the side pieces there, either side of the bumper. And these ones also were painted silver in this middle panel, that filler panel. None of this stuff I was aware of. And where they join, where is it? The silver goes under there to the edge of the bumper bar. Of course, you can see mine's all red, and it's thought that they were all silver to begin with because of ease of assembly on the production line. Mine's also got the sort of stainless trims either side of those vertical slats as well. And here are the stainless trims on mine. I'm assuming they're unique to Belvedere. This is a Plaza, so this is a really basic one, and it has the non-deluxe wheel. I think Belvedere's had that wheel too. I'm not really sure. Mine's got a deluxe wheel, and it's ratty. Mine's absolutely had it. But in his generosity, he's got a deluxe wheel up here, which is in far better nick than mine. Anyway, here's our deluxe wheel. This looks flaky, sort of in these sorts of areas. It's shrunk back, but that is repairable. I can fix that. And the other thing with mine, everything's been painted red. I don't want a red wheel. I want a black wheel with the white grips. And this looks like it's fairly stable. It's cracked and that sort of thing, but it's not irreparable. So we'll take this off. He can keep that here. I'll take the wheel and I'll stick my wheel in the post for him. So this is a bit rusty and a bit mangy, so I'm going to try and get that off and we'll see how we go. So since I've been back from Canada, I've been having a bit of a look at this Plymouth. Engine colour bothers me now. I know they're supposed to be silver. I would have preferred it all looking factory because it isn't right. A few things. I can't do anything about that unless I pull the engine. I've got to take the whole front clip off to do the body mounts, so all this has got to come off anyway, so I don't know. I don't know if I'll revisit it or not. It's a bit of a big job. I left the heater core out because that's knackered and blocked off the air hoses. And I left a little wire there for the washer pump. Originally, I was going to put this one on. These are cheap, just Ford ones. The Mopar ones are 10 times dearer, literally. I think that's $40 and the Mopar ones are $400. Scott actually made a joke about this. He sent this to me off the black Plaza. And this is the original 57 Jiffy Jet bag, which is beautiful. I don't know where it sits in these. I always assumed it would go there, and that's where I was going to kind of put it. This one's a siphon type arrangement, so I'll still put a pump in it, but I'll have a foot valve on it so we don't lose. We don't have to. We can just have it sort of coming out the top, if you know what I mean. It won't lose its prime. So we're going to put that carefully away. But the thing that bothers me as well, look at this, and there's some stuff on this that really, really looks fantastic. I did that intentionally when I painted the radiator. I left that. Started this thing a few months ago, I suppose, and it's still got beautiful, clean coolant in there, which is cool. It's a beautiful engine. Just a bit of work to do and a bit of detail finishing stuff. Little blanks that go under there. I don't even know what that's for. Just some sort of blank. And grommets. I rewired this car, so it's got to have the right grommets in, and that's all got to be cleaned up. There are some grommets in the trunk, in the boot, so I'll see which ones I can clean up and put in. Had a go at redoing this, and it's failed again. It's lost all its fluid, so I might just put a new master on it. Now, I did learn a lot about these cars while I was in Canada. This is 1958. The 57 had the Plymouth across the top, and this is a 57 bonnet. It's got the, let me get the torch out. You can see where the badges were, just there, under there. So this has been modified to look like a 58 in terms of the hood, following this Christine theme, but it's the wrong shell. I also need to get a hold, if anyone knows where I can get Belvedere side badges, because the holes were left there for them. I've got to get those as well. So these are the door cards, the original ones with the stainless on. I want to replicate that. The biggest shame with this vehicle is it was green on green, so that was that beautiful colour there, and I wish they'd left it. I prefer it so much to the red. So I'm stuck with a sort of black and white and red or whatever coloured interior, which I don't really want, but what do you do? These are the mounts. I bought a whole pack of them years ago, a couple of years ago, so I've got to figure out how to put those in. And There's all sorts of stuff in here. Some bolts. These steering wheels, this is the original one from the car, and it's pretty well stuffed. You can see there, it's all sort of gone on the grip. It's chalky, it's all crazed and cracked all through here. As well as under here, it's what I would call stuffed. This is a deluxe wheel in that I'll just pop it around that way. In terms of it being the more sought after of the steering wheels in the 57s and 58s. The Christine boys like them. So, you know, Christine had one with the power steering hub and all that sort of business. I have no idea how Plymouth fitted these or what they fitted them to. Maybe power steered cars, maybe all the hardtops had them, I'm not really sure. I'm assuming this is the original wheel from the car. Somebody's, well, the guy that did the bodyworks obviously sort of licked around here and got a bit of black overspray and that sort of stuff. The other wheels which I've seen advertised are the standard ones which have the sort of rounded centre. I think there was a new old stock one for something like $500 US or whatever, which would be nice, but I kind of would prefer this wheel here. Now, I can whistle this up and make it look nice, but it has to be done properly, which worries me a bit because the plastic is completely compromised and so on. Now, the one I got from Canada, which I thought was better, which is probably not, it's along the same vein, it's shrunk back here and it's all sort of cracked up. It is better in terms of the side bits are better and that sort of stuff, but it's also sort of completely gone in these sorts of areas and loose. Now the problem with it is, that's loose, that bit. That was originally there, you can see where it was, and that was originally there, but it's just completely shrunk. So you can sort of pop it around, you can fill in all that sort of stuff. So far as these sorts of bits are concerned, again they're loose, and the ring is rusted. So it's the kind of thing where it's almost better cutting either side of that and taking this off to clean the wheel, keying in behind here, putting it back with a two-part adhesive and rebuilding the wheel that way. They're quite a complicated design in that you've got these finger grips and all this sort of business. So yeah, I've just got to think about it. These bits here are uneven, so the plastic sort of shrunk back that way where the sun's hit it and that sort of stuff. So I've got to think about the best way to do this. Even if I cut and take this off, because the rest of this is in good condition, replicating these bits here, that's a lot of work. And difficult to get right, you have to get it right. The problem with this, as I said, was it's been in a car that was subject to getting very wet, and we've got rust on the inside of the ring. Now, most of these are loose. We've got one, got this one loose, I think. I don't want to shift the camera too much, but you can see we've got some looseness going on, and this is all knackered in here. And that's shrunk back and we've got rust in there, so I think we're going to have to take that off. The best way to do this really is to give it to a restorer who will take all this off and he'll have a mould, clean the ring up and remould a new resin steering wheel, basically. The problem with that is it's going to be $1,600-$1,800 or something, and I just haven't got that sort of money for this. So I'm going to start by numbering or lettering the various bits. I want to make sure I don't get anywhere where there's too much. A, B, C, D, I. Bugger, that's a lot of parts. Alright, so now I know that, when I start taking bits off, I know where they go. And I think what might be prudent is to take this middle one off, leaving these behind. That way I can slide them around, clean up the wheel underneath. And sort of similar thing with this, I'll take these two off here and slide these around and clean underneath. I need quite a bit of room to do that. If it wasn't out in the rain, I wouldn't bother. But that's, you can't re-adhere that in there, that's just too rusty. So I guess the best thing, I don't want to cut here because I can fill there and then sand it down and maintain those finger grips. So it's either going to be on the outside or I think probably the inside. The outside's probably better in terms of not being able to see it because that sort of faces down. So I might do these two on the bottom with a Dremel, and then by cutting sort of along here it should give enough room to release off the wheel. I'm going to put a mask on. This plastic is, a lot of old plastics contain formaldehyde. It actually smells like vomit. It sounds crude, but it's not. That's what it smells like. It's that Parmesan cheesy sort of vomit smell. So it's unpleasant. That's because the plastic's giving up. It's starting to fall apart. The XW's wheel I did 5 years ago using this method. Never had a crack since. It's been good. Having said that, now I've probably tempted fate. But I reckon that's the way to go. So I think I'll go outside, put a mask on, and start cutting this off. I started cutting this. You can see the line I've got sort of higgledy-piggledy. That's because the crack is too. And I want to be able to follow it to allow me enough room to get it off the hoop. That there doesn't quite look right. I'm going to have to come down again. Right down like that, I think. Speed control on this little $39 Dremels Hatter, but it's all I've got at the moment. And it stinks. I can smell it through here. Starting to wobble. I'm just using a blade just to get through some of this. Come on. Can I get you off? There we go. It's actually quite thick, but the thickness varies. Or maybe that's the line I've cut it on. There we go. So we've cut a couple of bits off. I've cut the big one off the top. This one here. Plastic's nice and thick, which is good. But obviously paper thin, there's nothing left there. So I've got to clean this ring up in that area. And that will go back. You can see how distorted it is when you put those two together though. It's just wrong. But with the whole thing reassembled, you shouldn't see that. So that means I can clean all this up. This metal tubing, you can see I've scratched it with the Dremel, but it is sort of fluted to allow the bonding agent to sit there, which has got a little ridge on there. It's got a couple of those, so that's cool. I can get this one, I can move this around, and again that's nice and clean there, just a bit of cleaning up in the corner. So I can get to all that, so that's good. The bottom, I decided against taking the second one off, D I think it was, or H, it's that one. Again, I can sort of move these around, oops, and clean up and do what I need to do. But that's the beginning. I'm going to clean this ring up and I'm going to start rebuilding. Right, steering wheel. I've cleaned up all in here. Can you see? Yes, you can. By sort of pulling this stuff around, I'll sort of get in there a little bit more. The problem with these bits is they're flaky. You can just press it and it all just breaks away. So I might have to just clean that edge up a bit. And when I fill it, you can see the cracks all through there. I don't know if you can see that, but I can. Go right to the edge and round it off. That's about the only way I can do it. The problem with this, if you look at these two bits, is how much the wheel's affected, if you know what I mean, by warping and that sort of thing. There's a step there, and of course there's a huge amount of plastic that's just sort of warped away and cracked, and that's come off. So there's a lot of filling to do that, and then when it's on the other side with that big bit there, I don't know if I've got it with me. No, I haven't. It'll be a more gradual thing, but that needs a lot of filling. There's a bit more cleaning up to do in here, but it's, yeah, getting there. It's pretty ready. We'll just do what we can to fix it up. Clean up all the debris out of these cracks so they can be filled. So I think I'll just take it in and start fiddling around with it, see if I can make it a bit better than it is now. Might be a challenge. Right, first lot of reconstruction. Put these back on. Just going to make sure they line up properly. Oh, sticky. Make sure these line up properly. Same as up here and there. Now, I haven't filled those yet. This is just basically putting them back together and filling the cracks. And it's going to need a few shots, I think. But it's a big job, so far as steering wheels go. But I'm confident it's going to be fine. The plastic is a bit flaky. I haven't even cleaned up these bits yet, but it doesn't matter. All the metal and the insides of the cracks are all filled. They're all clean, sorry, and filled. So it's pretty messed up at the moment. You can see where I left a paper towel leaning on this, which was dumb, but it doesn't matter, that'll sand off. So I'm just sort of mixing up this stuff here. I've made a bath with masking tape so that it all just sort of falls in and sits where it's supposed to sit. In a very rough sense, because I'm going to have to, that one's drained out into the bottom bit. So I'm just going to have to keep filling it. This is good stuff because it kind of just finds its own level, but it'll all run out if there's no tape there. That's why I've got tape around. So being as sandable as it is particularly good for this. You can see that crack, that big crack. It's kind of all sort of fallen into the crack, and that'll be on the metal underneath. So, where are we going? Up there, got a little thing. So look, it's going to look a lot worse before it looks better, and we can't do much about that. It's just going to have to be the way it is. And sort of in that area in there, we've got to get in there, but I'll let this all go off, and tomorrow, this is the strongest stuff. You can get 90 second, you can get 5 minute. Alright. This is the 24-hour one, but it's the strongest one. So, yeah, that's the 5-minute stuff there, but I've been using this. And mixing it up, putting it in. But that should do for now. And then we'll give it a rough sand into a rough shape with some 80 grit. And take it from there. Right, Plymouth steering wheel. All the structure's done. I've done it with the 24-hour epoxy. It's called Araldite. You can dig away this with a screwdriver and it won't lift. I did try and fill in some of these irregularities down here with the 5-minute stuff. Came back a day later, dug away at it, and I didn't like the way it adhered. I want this so that we can really dig hard at it and we won't get any grief. It stays there permanently. So that's the idea of it. Now, I've just shaped this very roughly with 80 grit paper. When you hang on to it and run your hands around, it feels good, yeah. But it's still got all these little tiny bits and pieces to fill in. Now, I didn't want to keep sanding away and applying this. It takes 24 hours to go off properly. So I'm going to try this and hope like crazy it works, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be taking it all out again to redo it. This is $12.75 for a small can. And I've just broken the thing, but we don't care. And it's a plastic based filler. Again, use a hardener just like your regular stuff. And the idea of it is that we'll apply it. I don't care how rough it looks when we apply it, but we need to be able to sand it back and shape it with, say, 120. Whoops, it's got a very strong smell to it. And finish it with some 240. So go over it again with some 240. Then complete the works with some 400. High fill, 2 coats of colour, 2 coats of clear, with a flex aid in all coats. That's the idea. And then hopefully the paint. Well, I know that I've painted wheels like that and we've never had any grief with them. But, you know, we just don't want this to crack. And this wheel, if the wheel's going to crack, it's going to be this one, because I've put a heck of a lot of epoxy into it. So I'm just going to mix up some of this stuff. And you use your gloves and then you throw them straight out because they just stay sticky for ages. Is that about right? A bit more. There we go. And we mix it in just like the regular. Oh, great. Well, like the regular filler, and apply it to the wheel. That's the idea of it. It's quite warm. It's 19 degrees, so hopefully this stays pliable for long enough. I'm more worried actually about this side here. So I'm just going to run it around. Where's my plastic spatula? And just give it a rough shape. I actually don't want this stuff too thick. So if it is thick in areas where I don't want it thick, then I'm going to be taking a lot of it off. Maybe this small one might be a bit easier to use. So I'll just go around, put this on, hope like crazy it works well, because I'll know fairly quickly whether or not it will. Let's have a look at the other side. Let's see, here we go again. Can you still see? I'm really hoping you can. Now, it does sand well, but it won't be overly pliable, if you know what I mean. It's not going to end up being impossible to use and impossible for paint to stick to. I don't know if any of you have seen this stuff, but I used it on the plastic work of Dave's XL250 on the guard and the side covers, and it's held up very well. So what I might do is I might let this half go off and then do the other half. I might just flick that around and smooth it off like that, hey? What do you think of that? And as I said, we're going to know pretty quickly. And I'll tell you what, if this is not successful, it's going to be a real pain in the ass to get off. Can you imagine the task of getting that stuff off? Right, so it's got a low there, I can see that already. But that's the gist of what we're doing. I'm going to get more in that area there. Now I haven't gone around the back because I don't want to, that's where the finger grips are. And that area there is all good. But I do want it around the perimeter. So I'm going to let that go off. And I reckon it's going to be good. What do you think, hey? What do you guys think? Like any filler, you can sort of just go around just before it's completely gone off. Just run around and get some of the excess flash, so to speak, off. It just cuts off with a spatula. There's a bit there I've got to fill, I can see that. And that's, even like in these areas here, that's going to be a very, very, very light skim. Just because there's some of that there. It looks like it's above the plastic, but there's sort of a low in there. That's sort of level with the plastic there, so I just want to skim over that. But yeah, I think that'll be fine. And I've just got to touch up. So look, there's going to be a few applications of this. Right, so I've been filling a wheel, and I've just hexed it off. I've been basic shaping it with 120. 4 of those, like that. And there. The structure of the wheel is really good. And see around here. So, can I focus? So there's little bits and pieces like that. So what I'll do, that's just basically shaped with 120. So we'll give it another application, and I think it's going to take a couple by the time I sort of get it all roughly shaped. It feels lovely to run your hands around now, but there's little ridges and things on it. A lot of them will come out with sanding, but I've tried to keep the sanding on the same plane, hexed around these areas here, so that when I come to do the rest of it, so I've left meat here, if you know what I mean. So once I'm finished doing all your smaller bits and pieces of filling, then I can shape it properly. But I'm very happy with how it's looking. So I've got to give an application down here and another one up here, and then give it more sanding, and I've just got to keep going until I get it right. It's not too far. The structure's beautiful. I think it's going to be fine. This is very, very challenging because of these finger grips. You can see where the wheel's been joined. And just making it like it feels alright when you have your hands on it and you use it, or you pretend to use it. But one of the issues also is the plastic on the side is compromised. I've sanded it down, which means I'm losing some of that texture because it wasn't stable. You could just scrape it off with your fingernails, and that's no good. But just in these areas here, it looks messy as heck, but what do? It's where there were cracks and where I've tried to fill in over that, and there's already a dimple there I can see in that ridge, in that finger groove. So I think the best thing to do is to get it into one colour, and it'll give us a better visual representation. So I'll mix up a bit of primer with some flexate in it, and I'll give it a blast. I think that's probably the best at this stage to really make it obvious where I need to concentrate. Because on the whole, it's not too bad, but we're not there yet. We're nowhere near there yet. We've got little imperfections here. Those plastics look terrible. I might have to take that back further and fill over them, as well as the transition between the wheel. And you can see on the inside over there, we're not quite there. There's a fair amount of work to do still, like here and under there, as well as the back. So, you know what, it's a work in progress. It's nowhere near as quick as I thought it would be. It's the hardest wheel I've done, but we're making headway with it at least. A couple of things to look at. We've got the Plymouth wheel here. It looks pretty bad, but it's actually quite smooth. I've filled in everything that I think I need to fill in. It feels lovely. I've already given it one coat of primer. As you can see bits of it around here. I've just got to give it another one. There's a few scratches in there and so forth. I just want to get in one colour so I can see exactly what imperfections are left, and there's quite a few on the back here where those finger grips are. That's actually quite a difficult thing to do. We've got our trusty Wolseley 2480 or Austin Freeway steering column. So that lets us, paint it and so forth. It makes for a much easier application, also one that's a bit more even. XC's armrest came out beautifully. It's nice and flexible, the paint, but I have filled in that crack there with a proper, that's just with bumper filler, which is flexible as well. So I'll just dust over that, then we can recolour those. This is tricky. Already I can see some problems. I can see more than one too. Yeah, we've got problems. I can see more. Okay, we're still mucking around with this Plymouth wheel. I've got a couple of wins and a couple of not wins. The wheel itself is actually feeling really good. There are still some faults around it. Now, I've been over this quite a few times, and I'm actually conceding that it's probably the best I can do, given the condition the thing was in before. It's these finger grips. See, there's an issue there. The best thing for blocking it back is actually an icicle stick, so I can get sort of right into those sorts of areas there. The finger grips are easily the hardest part of this to do, and some of them, you can see where I've sanded back. That one's not very good there, for example. I'm wondering how much really matters. I've just got so much work to do. But one of the ways I've been getting around it is just sort of, that's probably not a good example. I need something finer than that. Yeah, here. And I can sort of get in and I can get that curvature right in those sorts of areas there. But it is easily the hardest wheel I've ever attempted. So, it just has to look right. Now, what a lot of people do with these things, now I've kept the texture there, and I haven't succeeded in keeping it there because basically this was all flaky. So, you can feel it, and I'm wondering whether to cover that up, but I don't think I will. I've lost it on the outsides here. But what a lot of people do with these, because of this whole Christine type movement, is they have them red with the cream coloured grips. I can see a problem there now I'm talking. I'm not doing that because this car's red with a red carpets. It's going to have some other reds in the vinyls and all that sort of stuff in the interior. It's just too much of it. So I'm going to do the wheel black, and by doing it black, what it's going to do is it's going to hide a couple of sins on it, and therefore it'll just detract a bit from all that red. I might have to get in there with the icicle stick. So, it's not going to be as perfect as I hoped, but I do have motorcycles in the XC, and the XC in particular, I want to get that out because the weather's fine now, and do some work on that. And I've already started doing a lot of the plastic work on it. That's no good there. That's going to scream, I reckon. So it's things like that. It's just disconcerting. Yeah, that's no good. Anyway, I'm going to turn this off and do a little bit more work. All right, let's go. Oh. In my dirty garage. You'll be right. Come on, you. Let's go. Black. You like it? Oh, yeah. Right. No, that's wrong. Hang on. I feel like I'm making fairy floss. You get the stick and you run around inside. Oh, oh my goodness me. Have I missed anything? Have I missed it? Oh yeah, around that corner in there. It's a bit thin. That's not going to look too bad. On the edge. This is actually a satin paint. I'm going to clear it. I think the rest of it's alright. Looking at this, you can see where that repair is. I don't care about that though, really. I think it's alright. You can see I've started unmasking the thing, the wheel. That's the time of trepidation to see if you've masked properly. This colour is Wimbledon white, it's the same as XC and XW. I'm not doing this well. Now that will easily get what I'm interested in. For the grand reveal, there you go. Isn't that lovely? It's going to look the part. I'll just get this bit off and we're good. I'll just take it off its mount. There's a few things I haven't done with this. That's it there. It's got a nice clean line. I've got to clean this up a bit. There's a lot of residue and just crap there. And we'll go over it with a nice clear. And that'll do. I reckon that'll look fine. It's just marked up from where I had filler on my hands and all that sort of stuff. I haven't done that very well. Anyway, that's it for the moment. I should have also masked that off. But yeah, what do you do? And at long last I can clear cut this bloody steering wheel. Oh, that looks nice. Well, did I get it all? It's actually a bit too warm for painting acrylic, but I think I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot of product on it. Oh. And I'm going to drop it, but what do you think? Do you like it? I think it'll be fine. That's it finished. Easily the most difficult wheel I've ever done. I haven't cleaned this up yet. Just to get in these finger grooves and to make them even is because there was a huge crack all through here. Is really, really difficult to do. Turning it around. Can you see it? It's had my fat mitts all over it, so you probably can't see a lot of the detail. There was a couple of little holes, I think, in there. Not holes, but like little divots in there that I picked up on the other video. Herbie, maybe we can see it better in the sunshine. Just a moment. I don't know if that's any better. That's probably worse. No, it has actually turned out quite well. I'll put it in the car maybe. Oh, maybe you can see this better. This was really, really difficult to get right. And even so, some of them aren't quite right. And I did it with an icy pole stick. And I kept filling and sanding and filling and sanding and filling and sanding. Did it about 5 times. To the point where there's a couple of sand marks there. I don't think you'll see it though. I did want to get the back of it right though, because you'll see it from the windshield of the car. So I'm going to put it in the car now and we'll have a look. So despite me banging on about the colour not being to my choice, the fellow that did this car did an incredible job. Apparently he did the car for himself. The work he's done is just beautiful, but he didn't finish it. Didn't sort out the shut lines on the bonnet, and he didn't colour sand it. You can see how rough it is there. Um, but he sort of got halfway through it. The story is he ran out of money and had to sell it, but he did it for himself. Now I've been over this whole car with a magnet, and there's only a little bit of fill in the boot lid, which isn't even magnetic, so there's quite a bit of it in there, and in here somewhere, down above the wheel arch. But even if you look at the front eyebrows, I don't know if you can see the reflection. There's a line. Hang on, where the heck is it? I'll see if I can find it. There's a line here. Can you see that reflection if I move the camera? That is all new metal up here in the eyebrow. I don't know if he bought it or he made it, but it's beautifully done. Even though you can see that line, I don't care about that. The fact is he sort of did it all in metal. So it's a stunning car. Now, that's the reason it's taken a few attempts to do the wheel the way I want, because you can see, I just sort of gave the windscreen a rudimentary clean, you can see behind the wheel there. And I can even see fault in it from here, particularly on the grip down there. But no matter how you park it, whether it's at the top or the bottom, that has to look right. Now, this car, that screen is just sitting there. It's not mounted properly yet, obviously. You can see around here. So after this, I've got to actually take the front clip off and change the body mounts, because he did put it together. Once he'd obviously decided to sell it, it was in bits. So he's banged it together on the old mounts. And so they have to be done. Once the mounts are done, the screen can go in. I've got the rubbers for those. Headlining can go in first, obviously, then the screens. But I'm very pleased with it. I've rewired this car up to here. There's a plug. Let me get this light and show you what I'm talking about. There's a plug down there. So the wiring off to the rear is old. That plug you can see there. But I've got the male part of the new plug, which is tucked under, to replace it. But there's the wheel. You know, it's beautiful. I don't know how common the what do you call it, the centre without power steering is. I would have thought deluxe cars would have had power steering pretty much standard in them. But you can see it does look quite nice. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This is easily the hardest wheel I've ever done. You know, as I mentioned, I was going to and fro with isopolar sticks and all sorts of things. You know, the other thing I like about this car is it's a torque flat car. It's a 3-speed auto. But yep, look, I hope you've enjoyed that. Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy your classic, and I'll see you soon.